So for over 2,000 years, everyone believed that matter was made up of 5 elements: earth, fire, wind, water, and ether, because Aristotle convinced them of that. Even though Democritus believed in atoms, Aristotle's views were much more strongly believed by other people, until John Dalton came along. Over 2,000 years later, in the 1800s, John Dalton totally loved atomic theory and did lots of experiments to back it up. So he came up with his own theory of the atoms. And this is called Dalton's atomic theory, or the atomic theory, or Dalton's postulates. These are rules that he came up with that atoms follow. And he was the first person to use the word atom in a scientific basis since Democritus. He said that atoms are small and indestructible, meaning you can't break apart an atom into smaller pieces. It's the smallest thing you can possibly have of a particular substance. He also believed that atoms of the same element have the same properties and atoms of different elements have different properties. We now know, based on knowing about subatomic particles, that these first 2 points are not 100% true, but he was on the right track. The third point that he came up with was that atoms can rearrange themselves in chemical reactions, but they never change into different types of atoms. This is called the law of conservation of mass, because the amount of mass that we start with should be the same as the amount of mass that we end with. Now I want you to notice that this is dealing with chemical reactions. We now know that we can undergo a nuclear reaction for a particular substance and turn one element into an atom of another element. Finally, atoms combine in fixed proportions to form compounds. He coined this the law of multiple proportions. And what that means is that if we have water, water will always be H2O, and carbon dioxide will always be CO2. So if it's going to have the properties of water, it's always going to have 2 hydrogens bonded to 1 oxygen, and so on. Now, here's the definition of an atom. It's the smallest piece of an element that still has the properties of that element. For example, if I break up a bar of gold over and over and over and over again, eventually I'll end up with a single atom of gold. This atom will have the same properties of gold. But if I break apart this atom into smaller pieces called subatomic particles, those pieces will not have the same properties of gold. Sometimes Dalton's model of the atom is called the billiard ball model. He thought that the atom was small, round, hard, and indestructible.